Hi, folks. I'd like to take this moment of relative calm between impending financial doom and whatever the next political crisis is going to be to address some of the bigger background issues which I believe have sort of brought us to our present situation. In this case, I'm speaking about the whole system under which we live, democracy. We spend billions of dollars every year and risk and sometimes sacrifice the lives of naive young people promoting democracy all around the world and defending democracy at home. Despite the fact that a lot of those countries we try to promote democracy in, or those cultures, could give a shit less about democracy. An Iraqi imam was famously quoted as saying, "What do we need to vote on things for? All you need to do is read your Quran. The answer is in the Quran. You don't need to vote on it." People like Michelle Bachmann, Rick Santorum, they would probably agree with that imam, except they would say that all the answers are in the Bible. But you don't really need to vote on that either. My father was a union man, and unions, most of them, try to be democratic organizations. He carried a copy of Robert's Rules of Order around in his back pocket, and his advice was, if you don't have the votes in your favor, then don't let the issue come to a vote. It was simple as that. If you can't win, then do everything you can to prevent the whole issue from being voted on. I don't think I'm being unfair when I say that, if you're upset that the economy hasn't rebounded with the speed and strength that you'd like, you still don't have a job. Well, it's basically because the Republicans have done everything in their power to simply stop anything coming to a vote. There's sort of no regulation, Wild West economic kind of thing, don't tax the rich policies sort of got us into this hole, and they are doing everything in their power to make sure that nothing happens to get us out of this hole. Democracy depends on an informed electorate, which means that the people who are voting need to know the facts of a situation in order to make a wise decision. An initiative here in Washington State, we have an initiative process. Anybody can get signatures on a petition and have a law put up to a vote of the people, and if the majority of people want it, it becomes law. Several years ago, there was an initiative put on that would compensate landowners, property owners, if a government regulation reduced the value of their land. The government then would have been required to compensate the landowners for that reduction in value. Sounded like a good thing, sounded fair. They had all these ads on TV where usually it was some little old lady, and she was telling a story about how years before her husband and she had bought 25 acres and of undeveloped land, and now her husband was dead and she needed the money and she wanted to subdivide the land and put up houses on it, and the government had decided there was a lake or a swamp in the middle of the thing, and they wanted to preserve that wetland, and so now she couldn't subdivide her land, and she thought that the government should have to pay her for the whole piece. Sounded very touching. Well, about halfway through the election cycle, it came to light that the biggest financer of this initiative was Weyerhaeuser, which is a huge lumber company. It's also the biggest landowner in the state of Washington. They own millions and millions of acres on which they grow their trees. And they were the ones who were going to reap literally billions of dollars in taxpayers' money was going to be sent to Weyerhaeuser because of government environmental regulations that prevented them from cutting every last stick of lumber, just clear cutting things right down, making this state look like a parking lot. And, we would have had to, taxpayers would have had to pay for the privilege of having unpolluted streams, clear water lakes, and fish in them all. Luckily for us, for the state of Washington and the taxpayers in it, all this came to light and the initiative was defeated. But it was a near thing. If some investigative reporter hadn't dug up that sort of stuff, right now, Weyerhaeuser would be posting record profits, and probably the tax rate in Washington would be that many more dollars higher. Personally, I have to ask myself, do we even have an informed electorate in this country? The statistics are that most people in this country believe the world is only 4,000 to 6,000 years old. They have doubts about evolution, which is really the bedrock of biological science. They believe in angels. They worry about ghosts. They're afraid of being kidnapped by people in flying saucers. I doubt that they're, honestly, in my own circle of friends, I don't know how many of them actually could point to France on a map. In my opinion, most of the people in this country aren't qualified to elect a dog catcher, let alone vote for the president of the United States, who has control of essentially the world economy and his finger on the nuclear trigger. You have to ask yourself, why would the people who run this country, why would the powerful even support democracy in the first place? Why not just have a dictatorship right off the bat and save themselves a lot of money and everybody a lot of running around? I think there are at least two reasons. Given that we don't have an informed electorate, all we really have is just an ignorant mob responding to catchphrases and cleverly constructed advertising. What better way to control the anger and frustration of a mob than to make the mob believe that the ideas that the powerful have fed them are in fact their ideas? How else do you explain the phenomena? Back when Obamacare was being considered, when it was being voted on, there were angry protests largely of retired older people, some of them in wheelchairs, screaming about, don't touch my Medicare, when the whole point of the legislation was to improve Medicare, to allow more people to be on Medicare, to close some gaps in the Medicare program. How else do you explain people who, factory workers, production workers, who will vote a Republican? They'll vote for people who, as soon as they get elected, are going to export their job overseas to China. How do you explain people voting against their economic interests? Except to say that they don't understand what their economic interests are, and they don't understand how the economy works. But, they're responding to a well-crafted ad campaign. Simple as that. This is why the principle of that money, spending money is a form of speech, is so vitally important to the people who are the powerful people who run this country. Spending money is the way that they form public opinion, the way they control the flow of information to the public, the way they control this democracy. If the principle of that money is free speech were to be made constitutionally invalid, and it was simply a matter of one man, one vote, you can stand out in the corner and say anything you want, but hiring people to say it for you doesn't count, is illegal. On that day, if that ever passed, on that day, we would be living in a true democracy. We would be living in a very different country. And believe me, the powerful in this country are going to do everything in their power to make sure that that day never comes. The second benefit to the powerful of a pseudo-democracy is that it allows them to blame the victims for their own victimization. It's similar to the argument that women get raped because they wear short skirts. You know, you as a taxpayer, you as a citizen are getting raped. Oh, because you voted for those guys. You know, if you don't like it, you should just vote more. The problem is no matter how much you vote, you're still going to get raped. Well, and as with any system, every once in a while, the rich and powerful make a mistake and things get out of hand. The people who ran Germany in the 1930s thought they could use the mob, the basically racist, ignorant, superstitious Nazi party to advance their the rich people's ends. And they helped Hitler get elected. He turned around and canceled democracy, kind of turned around and bit the rich people on the butt. The Koch brothers, they're taking a page right out of Hitler's playbook, trying to use the racist, ignorant Tea Party types, the mob, to protect their interests, their financial interests. Hopefully it will come to nothing, but it's a dangerous play, in my opinion. Nowadays we spend millions and risk the lives of our sons and daughters trying to put democratic regimes into power in third world Islamic countries. Now, you know, recently, but we do it all over the place. And then these democracies get running and immediately elect a fundamentalist government that could give two shits about democracy or the will of the people. And in the full course of time, we're sending our sons and daughters back there to kill everybody. The truth is that all fundamentalists, whether they're Islamic fundamentalists, Christian fundamentalists, Jewish fundamentalists, do not believe in democracy. And I think we're fooling ourselves if we think democracy and fundamentalism can live together in the same state. Fundamentalists are fundamentally opposed to the secular liberal values that have made the West wealthy and powerful. And if we, in some crazy pursuit of democracy with all its faults and contradictions, allow them to use democracy to instill themselves into power, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day. Talk to you later. Bye.